So Arsenal kicked off the Premier League season with a victory, maybe not quite as convincing as it may have been. And in the end, we were holding on, but we've got the 3 points. It finished at the Emirates. Arsenal 2, Nottingham Forest 1. Let's look back on the first game of the season. So, yes, we got the victory, and I think that's probably all that matters, really, isn't it, at the end of the day? We got the job done. Second half wasn't great, but ultimately we won the game. Now, I wanted to start really with the team lineup because it wasn't maybe as many people had expected, was there? No Gabriel. Was there an injury issue with Gabriel? Because he didn't even come on, did he? Later on when Timber got injured. But yeah, slightly strange formation. Obviously, Eddie Nketiah starting as well as the centre forward. And so Kai Havertz actually dropped back into that sort of Granit Xhaka role in midfield, which is where we kind of felt he was earmarked to play this season anyway. So to start the first Premier League game in that position, I suppose, isn't really a massive surprise, although I thought he had done well last week in that kind of false nine position. But anyway, it was Eddie Nketiah. So we lined up. It was Ramsdale in goal. And in fact, it turned out to be a back three, didn't it? Of Ben White, William Saliba and Duran Timber. And then, of course, Partey was pushed more into midfield, wasn't he, alongside Declan Rice and Kai Havertz. Martin Odegaard slightly further forward, of course, and then the front three was Saka, Martinelli, and I say Eddie Nketiah, which I say was a little bit of a surprise, wasn't it? But anyway, it didn't turn out too bad, did it? Because it was Eddie Nketiah who did open the scoring. I mean, I thought we started the game quite slowly. Forest had that big chance, didn't they, very early on when they could have taken the lead. Brendan Johnson, wasn't it, who fired over the crossbar when, you know, if he had a bit more composure there, we could have been in trouble, couldn't we? Because he was clean through on goal. But we kind of grew into the game in that first half, didn't we? And those two quick goals obviously made a massive difference, didn't they? I mean, the first goal, I don't think Martinelli meant that back heel as a pass. I think he was literally trying to turn back himself, wasn't he, and get on the end of it and create an opportunity. It fell nicely, didn't it, to Eddie inside the box. And that's where Eddie's dangerous, isn't he? You know, I know we've all said it on this channel, and I think lots of people have said it outside of that as well, that I don't think Eddie's your answer, is he? If you want to win big trophies, having Eddie as your centre forward probably isn't. He's not quite good enough for that, is he? But when he's in that penalty area, he knows where the goal is, and he did again, didn't he? It's a nice touch, cut inside. Yeah, a little bit lucky with a deflection. Matt Turner, of course, back at the Emirates so soon after leaving, couldn't really do anything about that, could he? And then the second goal, I mean, what can you say about that? Just sums up Bukayo Saka in one moment there, doesn't it? A fantastic finish. Again, gave Matt Turner no chance. And I think maybe at 2-0, bearing in mind Nottingham Forest have lost 5-0 on their two previous visits to the Emirates, you're kind of thinking, you know, we could go on and get a big score and really make a statement on the first weekend of the season to say, you know, we're back in this race again this season. But I don't know, the second half, yes, it didn't help, did it? Timber getting injured, having to go off so early on. And it wasn't Gabriel who came on, a little bit of a surprise. Again, makes me think that maybe there's an injury issue there with him or some issue, illness or something. And it was Tomiyasu. Good to see Tomiyasu back on the pitch. He's not really played much, has he, in recent months? So it was nice to see him back. I thought he did okay, didn't he? He almost scored, didn't he? His first touch, had a shot from outside the box. But yeah, it was good to see him back. And maybe the whole disruption to the team maybe didn't help. But, you know, fair play to Forest. I thought they kind of figured us out a bit in the second half, didn't they? They defended a lot better. They restricted us to really few good opportunities. And then they made their changes, didn't they, late on in the game, got themselves a goal back. And it got a bit nervy, didn't it, in those last sort of 10 minutes and the stoppage time as well. And to me, that's too similar to what happened too many times last season, switching off at the back, conceding I mean, it was a well-worked goal, to be fair. A good counter-attacking goal, wasn't it? A great pace from Malanga, the substitute, and the other substitute, Awamyu, of course, scored the winning goal, didn't he, when we met at the City Ground at the end of last season, was there again to finish it off. And I thought Ben White's defending wasn't great. In fact, the defending all round wasn't great from that counter-attack, was it? You know, we can't afford to... it was from I think it was from our corner, wasn't it? And they got the ball and broke up the other end of the pitch and scored on the back of our corner. So that was poor. And then, of course, it got very nervy, didn't it? And that second half, it it didn't happen, did it? And you know, that game maybe in some ways summed up last season, didn't it? A very good first half, and then a quite poor second half. That almost proved really, really costly, didn't it? Because we could easily have dropped if our level drops off like that in the second half of games against, no disrespect, we're better teams than Forest. We're going to struggle, aren't we? If we can't keep clean sheets at home, then last season that cost us, and I think it looks as though the way we started today, it could cost us again, because we're in a position of real control in that game, wasn't we? But we wasn't able to finish it off completely, you know, get that third goal. And then you do feel if we got a third goal in the first 10, 15 minutes of that second half, we could well have won 5-0 again, but we didn't. And this is where we've got to be better. And this is something that I didn't see today. I didn't see today too much to make me think that we've learned much or improved much on what we were producing last season, if I'm honest. It's very early days, of course, so let's not get carried away. But yeah, to me, it wasn't the sort of performance that, you know, I thought we started last season really, really well, really sharp. And I felt today we didn't look sharp at all, did we? We had moments, especially in that first half. We played some nice football. Forest were struggling to contain us. But then it just all fizzled out, didn't it, in that second half? And that's something that needs to be addressed, because I say against a better opponent than Nottingham Forest, we won't always get away with it, will we? Steve's in the chat there, my friend. He says, poor second half. City would be laughing. Well, I mean, we got the 3 points ultimately, and if you don't always play at your best, but you get 3 points, I think you've got to be reasonably happy with that. But yeah, the second half was poor. I agree, really poor actually. Terry says, after Richard, Steve, yeah, good to see you, Terry. Hope you're well, my friend. Steve says that, Terry. Yeah. Steve says, is Timber hurt bad? We're not really sure yet. It didn't look great, did it? The way he went down. Was it knee? Was it calf? Difficult to say, but it didn't look great, did it? Let's be honest. And let's hope it's not a serious injury, because he's done really well, hasn't he? He had a bit of a mixed game today, I thought. At times he had a few problems. He did some good stuff as well. But yeah, that injury could be, you know, if it's a long-term injury, that's pretty bad, isn't it? When you think already we've lost Jesus, now we're going to lose Timber, who it looks like he's going to be an important player for us. So yeah, let's hope it's not as bad as it looked. But it didn't look great, did it? The way he went off, the way he went down. So it's, yeah, a little bit of a worry there. But we'll wait and see. We'll get some news on that, I'm sure, later on. Terry says, yeah, a win is a win, but that was rubbish. We need to sell Havertz and Eddie before the window shuts. I'm not sure what we said. I actually thought Havertz did okay, not fantastic. I mean, I will talk about the three debutants in a bit more detail in a minute, but yeah, I thought he did okay. Eddie, we know Eddie's not good enough. He took his goal well today. He's not good enough, is he? If he has to play, I said it last season, if Eddie has to play 10, 15 games in the Premier League, you're not going to win the Premier League. With Eddie as your striker, he's just not, because he's just not at that level, unfortunately. We love Eddie, but he's just not quite good enough. And he took his goal well today. Didn't we do it else, did he? Let's be honest. It's quite easily contained other than that. So yeah, Steve says, yeah, Havertz looked really improved. Yeah, I thought Havertz looked all right today. So I will talk about him in a minute. Phil says, yeah, points in the bag, but not great. Yeah, and I think that's pretty much a good way to sum it up, isn't it? Ultimately, the first game of the season, it's important to start well, get your 3 points, and we've done that. Yes, it wasn't a great performance, and that is a worry against a team like Nottingham Forest at home. I mean, we looked at the fixtures and thought, you know what a great way to start the season at home to a team like Nottingham Forest. We'll be expected to win fairly comfortably. Look, for a while as though that may well was going to be the case, but yeah, it wasn't to be, was it? And it fizzled out, didn't it, that second half? Very, very disappointing. Terry says there, we're worse than we was last season at 2-0. We gave up. Why don't we kill teams off 4-5? I don't think it was so much that we gave up. I just think that I thought Forest adapted to what we were doing, and they kind of sussed us out a little bit. And I think that they defended better in the second half. They upped their game a little bit in the second half, and maybe we thought it was a little bit too comfortable, and we got a bit of a shock, didn't we? But that's something we've got to learn, and we've got to learn quickly, because there are no easy games in the Premier League. You've got to do your job. You've got to finish and kill these teams off, and it almost cost us today because we didn't do that. And fair play to Forest, because they kept going to the end. And if they keep doing that, then they may well survive again. It's a tough league, but they may well survive again if they show that much fight as they did in that second half. But we created a lot of those problems ourselves, to be honest. Just our performance level just really dropped off, didn't it? And that's something we can't afford to do if we're going to be challenging that juggernaut as Man City, as we saw last night. Man City played in second gear for most of that game, won 3-0 comfortably, and we can't do that. We drop down a gear, and teams get back in it against us and cause us problems, and that's the difference, isn't it? with us and with City. Jotta's in the chat here, my friend. Good to see. He says, "Hi, Richard. Chat, a win, but not a good one for the ticker." No, indeed. Still a winner, 3 points. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we just said that there. You know, ultimately, if we win every game scrappily, we'll be champions, right? So we can't really grumble too much. But that game, I think, maybe posed a lot more questions than it asked. Let's be honest, it did. You know, the starting lineup for a start. I don't know what you guys made of that. Really, it was a shock to me. I don't know whether there was an issue with Gabriel. Has he not been well, or was there some other issue? The fact that he didn't start the game, and we kind of changed the system a little bit to adapt to that. And he didn't even come on, did he, till very, very late in the game when they scored at the end. They brought on Gabriel, took Martinelli off to try to shore that defence up for the last few minutes. But yeah, I'm not sure what happened with Gabriel there, but very surprised not to see him in the starting lineup. And yeah, towards the end, we looked very shaky at the back, didn't we? Unfortunately, Steve says, "I thought 5-0 when it was 2-0. Good old Arsenal." Yeah, I mean, I think we all kind of felt that, didn't we? Because we've had a few comfortable victories against Forest at home before. You know, 2 goals in 5 or 6 minutes it wasn't it, in that first half, and you thought, well, yeah, we can build on this now, go on and win the game comfortably, but we didn't do that. You know, and I say some of that's down to Nottingham Forest as well. I think we do have to give them credit because they did change the way they played in that second half. They were a lot more aggressive. They were a lot better defensively, and we couldn't up our game again, could we? We couldn't get back to that level in that first half. And I say it is something that is a worry. It is a worry, but it's only one game. Let's not get too carried away. Terry says, "Arteta, in my eyes, thought this was going to be a walk in the park. Nearly backfired again." I'm not sure. I'm not necessarily sure he thought it'd be a walk in the park. I mean, we were in complete control of the game, wasn't we? 2-0 up within 30 minutes, 32 minutes, whatever it was, when the second goal went in. And at that point, you're thinking, yeah, this game's won. It's just how many goals we're going to win by. And I think that's a natural reaction for us as fans. I'm pretty sure the players and the management and the coaching staff didn't necessarily think that. And what we needed to do was get that third goal, didn't we? Because then the game is done and you can then relax and you can then play your Ole football, can't you? And go on. And I say we would probably have gone on and scored 5. But we didn't do that, did we? We did drop our level in the second half, and that was worrying for me. It was worrying the way we dropped off in that game. And I say because this is something that we've done a lot previously, last season in particular, we did it quite a lot, didn't we? In games, we had that drop off in the second half, and we did it again today, and that's a worry. Now, this is a sort of game where, yes, it's early in the season, and you're maybe not quite in your total flow yet. But you know, Man City managed to win 3-0 away from home, and we played Forest at home. You know, we should have at least won 3-0 today, shouldn't we? Let's be honest, and we didn't in that second half. Wasn't great, was it? Steve says, "Yeah, agree, Terry. He outsmarts himself." Yeah, I think that's probably true. I think he overcomplicates things without a doubt. He seems to, doesn't he? But we got the job done, and you know, we've got to cling on to those positives there. It's 3 points on the board, and you know, you can't start any better than getting 3 points, really, can you? You know, whether we won 5-0 today or whether we scrape this 2-1 in the end, we've still got 3 points on the board. And there'll be a lot of teams this weekend that won't have any points on the board. So you know, it is what it is, and we'll take that, won't we? Jota says there maybe Agent Turner gave Forest some advice on how to counter us in the second half. Well, maybe he did, but you'd think he might have done that at the start of the game as well, wouldn't you? Really? But I don't know, really. I just think that Forest realised where they'd gone wrong in that first half and put it right at half time, and that's all that they could have done. You know, I don't even think it was a case for them. At half time, I was thinking, is this just going to be, from Forest's point of view, just a damage limitations exercise, really, because they wouldn't have wanted to get hammered 5-0 again. But actually, no, it wasn't really, was it? I thought they actually thought they could still get something from the game, and at 2-0 you can, and they got that goal, and suddenly it makes a big difference. That you could see the whole atmosphere of the Forest fans, their whole atmosphere changed. The players were lifted, and you could see there were tension in everybody, wasn't it? All our fans, our players, everybody looked a lot more tense after that goal. And you know, had that goal come maybe 5 or 10 minutes earlier, I think we may have really struggled to cling on to the victory. But in the end, we just did enough, didn't we? Terry says, "Yeah, to be fair, we could have been 1-0 down." Yeah, I said that at the beginning. We could easily have been 1-0 down. I thought it was a sloppy start, wasn't it? 10 minutes or so, maybe a bit less, but yeah, it was a sloppy start. But we kind of grew into that first half, didn't we? The first goal obviously settled us down, and then the quick second goal after that. And I say we looked in control. But anyway, There we go. Steve says there, I've had two heart stoppers, Aussie women 7-6 and Arsenal 2. And yeah, obviously Australian women won on penalty 7-6 against France in the quarter final. I didn't see that penalty shootout. I was out, but I will watch that later on. And of course, you're playing the Lionesses next. That's going to be exciting, isn't it? On Wednesday, England against Australia in the semi-final of the Women's World Cup. We will be looking at that tonight. Actually, we've got a show at 7:30. We will be looking at the Lionesses' performance today, coming from behind to win, and also looking ahead to that semi-final on Wednesday. Well, exciting times, isn't it? That's going to be great, isn't it? So that's a lot of great stuff to come. But yeah, it must have been a stressful day for you, Steve. We feel for you. I mean, it's a stressful day for us as well because England didn't make it easy, but we got there, which is good. So yeah, we look forward to Wednesday. But that show's tonight at 7:30. For now, we are going to look at this. I say this Arsenal performance today, and yes, it's true. We won the game, and any game that you win in the Premier League. You've got to be pleased with. I think you've got to be happy with your 3 points and move on. But for me, yeah, I was concerned by the second half. I've got to be honest, it concerned me the way that second half, the way that we played in that second half. It was a worry, wasn't it? Because we were in that position, a position where when you're in control of a game like that, we saw last season, didn't we? There was the game at Liverpool. There was a game against West Ham, totally in control of games and just switching off. Is it switching off? Is it? I don't know. Is it teams finding us out? I'm not. It's difficult to explain, isn't it? Why that happened today? Why it's happened too many times in the past as well? Because it's something that just really, yeah, it concerns me. It does. Looking at that today, it wasn't. I think we all expected Arsenal to win. Of course we did. The other night on the show, me and Adam, we both predicted reasonably comfortable Arsenal victories overall. I think I said 2-0 actually. I thought it would be comfortable but not spectacular. And of course that's exactly how it turned out there, didn't it? So but in the end today, yeah, it wasn't, I don't know, that second half was a worry, wasn't it? But anyway, Terry says, yes, Steve, we've got you in the semis and Sweden in the final. Well, let's not get too far ahead of ourselves, Terry. We've got to beat Australia first. Steve says England will win the World Cup. I mean, I do think as though, obviously, playing a host at home is tough. But if we get through that, I think we'll have a great chance of winning. So we'll talk about that a bit later on. Terry says plenty of Booner girls in the semi-final. It is. And, of course, one of them did score the winner for England today as well, which is very good. But, yeah, I thought... I don't know. It's difficult to explain, isn't it? What really, I mean, I say went wrong in the game. It's difficult to say. Oh, something went wrong when clearly we won the game, and I think that we need to be, be reasonably happy about the result. But yeah, I don't know where we think that went wrong today. Then, I mean, is it a case of Nottingham Forest realising where the problems have been for them in the first half and doing something about it, and us not being able to then raise our game and go to a different level? I was a little bit, again, the substitutions that came on, I thought were a little bit late in the day for me. Trossard came on. I know we had to make that substitution very, very early in the second half, didn't we? When Timber got injured, Tomiyasu came on. But I'd like to have seen us, even when it was still 2-0, you could see the team needed freshening up. We needed something a little bit different, and I would have brought Trossard on a little bit earlier than he came on. But again, with Arteta, he doesn't like to make changes too early in games, does he? In fact, he quite often leaves them too late, and I thought he did today. I thought that the substitutions were too late to try to change the game. And of course, at the end, he does his panic substitution that he always does when we're hanging on to a win. It used to be Rob Holding, didn't it? He'd throw one in the last 5 minutes if we're hanging on to a 2-1. And today it was Gabriel. And I say, I'm not sure how fit Gabriel was. The fact he didn't start the game or come on early in the second half tends to suggest he had a problem. Steve says, as soon as Timber went off, they switched off. So, well, yeah. Well, I mean, it seemed to be that. I mean, that was so early in the second half, wasn't it? And there was kind of worries about Timber's fitness at half time anyway. So you'd imagine that they must have been prepared for that potential. And I think they were prepared because, I mean, it seemed as though Tomiyasu came straight on as though that was the plan. But yeah, it did seem to, the two things together, wasn't it? Obviously, the second half and Timber's injury together did seem to create some sort of I don't know, but we've got to be able to deal with these situations better, haven't we? Because these things happen in the season. You get players injured, you have to change your team, you have to maybe change your shape during a game sometimes, and these things happen. You've got to be able to cope with that better, haven't we? You know, if we're gonna win the league, and let's be honest, right? After last season, coming second with the money we spent in this summer, the natural progression has got to be winning the league this year. And if we're going to win the league this year, we're going to have to put these things right, and we have to put them right quickly, because we can't afford to be that sloppy as we were in that second half, especially in those last 15 minutes or so. We can't afford to be that sloppy too often. Otherwise, we're going to get caught out. We're going to drop points. And you know what happens when you're facing an opponent like Manchester City for a title? You drop too many silly points and it soon slips away from you, doesn't it? And it's not just Man City this season. You know, other teams are strengthened as well. So yeah, I mean, that is something that we need to kind of improve. Terry says, do you think Arteta will pick this side for the next 6 games? I really hope not, or we're winning nothing. I'm worried already. Well, obviously you can't pick Timber probably for the next few games. You'd imagine, looking at the injury, you'd imagine Gabriel will come in though, so that's not necessarily going to be a major problem, is it? Because you know, Gabriel's probably been our most consistent defender. I know obviously William Saliba last season, but because he got injured, I think Gabriel was our most consistent defender over the whole season last season. So there's no issue with Gabriel coming in for Timber, is there? But yeah, it's the rest of the team further forward. It didn't seem to quite flow, did it, as it needs to do? And yes, it's because, you know, we had Havertz and Rice, 2 of our new players, playing in midfield. And maybe it's going to take time for them to really gel and to settle into their positions. I mean, we'll start with Havertz then, because, you know, he's the one that's caused the most conversations this summer, hasn't he, since we signed him, really. And, you know, I thought pre-season he'd done okay. He had some good moments in pre-season, didn't he? Scored a couple of goals. And I thought last week in the Community Shield, playing as that false 9 in place of Jesus, I thought he played well. Had a couple of chances. Yes, could have done better with the second one in particular, but I thought today, you know, playing in that more deeper midfield position instead, I thought it took him a little bit of time to adjust to it, if he ever did. Really, he wasn't quite as effective, but I thought he worked hard today, and I thought he did okay. I thought he played okay, Havertz. I wouldn't say he was fantastic, but I thought he played okay. And I think what's going to happen with Havertz, unfortunately for him, because he is versatile, he is probably going to be switched around into different positions, not only starting games in different positions, but during games maybe moving around, playing in 2 or 3 different positions, which probably isn't going to help him to really settle in and establish himself in the team, because it's difficult when you're 1 week you're playing maybe in a more holding midfield role, 1 week you're playing more maybe as a left-sided attacker, the next time you play as a false 9. It's quite difficult to have a real nail down a position in the team, isn't it? And I think Havertz has been brought in for that versatility anyway. So I didn't think he had a bad game today, actually. I've got to be honest. I didn't think he had a bad game. Yes, I think we'll get more from him, and I think he'll improve as he settles in more, as he gets more adapted into the way we want to play and that kind of stuff. But I do think he had an okay game today. I wasn't too disappointed with Havertz's performance, if I'm honest. He was certainly no worse than anybody else, was he? So, you know, it wasn't like, oh my God, he was terrible. He played okay. He had some good moments in the game. He had some not so good moments as well, but that you could say that about pretty much everyone in that team today. So I thought it was a decent enough Premier League debut for him, I have to say. I thought he played well last week, and I thought he did it okay today. So I'm reasonably happy with how he started his Arsenal career. You know, if we forget how much we paid for him, 65 million is a lot of money, obviously. But I thought he's had two pretty steady performances for me, and I'm pretty happy with how he's played, actually. Havertz said, Terry said Havertz has had 3 and a bit seasons to settle in, and we still wasted 65 million. But no, but you think about it, right? He's had 3 seasons with Chelsea, playing a different system, a different role in the team, different players around him, a different manager with different ideas. And he's gonna. Yes, he hasn't got to adapt to the Premier League, and I think that's an advantage, and I think that will prove to be an advantage overall. He's just got to adapt to the way that his role in the team, which has changed in the 2 games so far this season, because he was a completely different system or different role he played in the team last week. So I don't think that's going to help him necessarily that quickly. What he needs to do is get one position, play there every week, and then within 4 or 5, 6 games, you've kind of adapted and you've adjusted, haven't you? Because he hasn't got to get used to the league or the pace of the league or anything like that. So I don't think that's helping him. playing in different positions, but I think that's why he's been brought in. So it's one of them things, isn't it? So I do think it will take him a little bit of time to settle into our style and our system. But I say overall, I'm reasonably happy with how he's played. So I'm not concerned at this moment in time. Whether we'll have this conversation again, I'm sure throughout the season. But I would say let's have a see on how his performances have been after 6, 7, 8 games, and let's see how he's adapting. And if it's not quite working, then that's a different conversation we'll have. At the moment, I think we have to give him time, and so far I'm okay with him. I think he's been doing okay. Steve says got to give him time to work at Arsenal stuff. Yeah, exactly. No, exactly the point I'm making there. Yeah, it's not. Yes, he hasn't got to adapt to the Premier League, and that's good. But he has got to adapt to the way we play and how he's going to fit into that team. So I think he's an intelligent player, and I'm sure he'll do it. So let's give him time and let's see. It's not been a bad start for him. Let's be honest. It's just people look at the price tag. I think 65 million. You want a player who's going to score 4 or 5 goals very quickly in the season. But no, I don't think that's really what he's necessarily going to be about for us. I think he'll score goals, but I think it's more about his adaptability to play in a few different positions in the midfield and in the attack. And I think that's why we've bought him. And I think that will prove to be crucial in the season. A lot of games. Regina's in the chat. Hey, my friend, good to see you. Hope you're well. You've had a good summer. He says we took it too slow in the second half. Yeah, we did. We took our foot off the gas, and I think Nottingham Forest contributed to that as well. I think we have to give them credit. Let's not say it's all our fault. But yes, we were in control. We should have finished that game off, and we've got to hold our hands up to that as well. But I thought Forest played better in the second half. And that's that really. Vijandra says very little changes. So yeah, I mentioned that before. I thought that the changes were too late. Yeah, he brought Trossard on, changed it when we'd been looking like we needed to be refreshed a lot earlier than that in the game. And again, Arteta's very slow to do that, isn't he? It's almost like he wants to keep. It's like he wants to keep. I don't know, like keep faith in that starting 11 to get things right, rather than thinking actually this isn't working. We need some fresh legs, freshen it up, and doing it a bit earlier. But that's one thing he's not adjusting to quickly enough, is he? He's not. It's the same problems. He's nearly 4 years into his time at Arsenal. We're still talking about the same issues with this man, and that's my issue with it. You want to, people say he's learning on the job. Well, if he's learning on the job, by 4 years he should have started to iron out some of these issues, which he isn't doing. He hasn't done, has he? It's still the same issues happening still now, nearly 4 years later. And this is one of the big ones for me, and not making those changes quickly enough. Steve says, if we're talking about him in 5 weeks, then it might be. No, I mean, I don't mean talking about him in a negative way. I mean, in 5 or 6 weeks' time, hopefully we're saying how well Havertz is playing. That's what I mean. I mean, I have a conversation about it. It's not worth saying now, oh, he's terrible or he's great, because it's only 2 games, technically 2 games into the season. What Community Shield and this one, so let's see how he's gone after 5 or 6 weeks, and hopefully we're talking about him in a positive way, because he's doing what we need him to do. And I think so far I'm reasonably happy with him. I'm not going to criticise him yet, because I don't think he's done too bad. Terry says the best part of Havertz today was his handball pass to himself. That was quite funny, actually, to be fair. But yeah, that was quite good. Virginia says Havertz needs to get his speed up to Martinelli. Well, yeah, I mean, I don't think he's ever going to be as fast as Martinelli, is he? It's just not his game. Some people are as fast as others, aren't they? That's just the way it is. And that's not his game, is it? He's not a speed merchant, is he? Martinelli is really, really fast, and Havertz isn't. And you can't expect Havertz to suddenly be able to, add or take off 2 seconds off his 100-meter time. He can work on it and improve that, but it's not his natural. That's not his natural strengths, is it? His pace. His strengths are different, and I think that's fair enough. And I think so far he's okay. Steve says only round 1. Exactly, yeah, it is only round 1. Let's give everybody time. Terry says, how can you play Havertz and Eddie, leave Trossard on the bench? I can see Trossard getting a hump and wanting that. I must admit, yeah, I mean that. I think it's more the Eddie and Trossard thing today that that kind of worried me slightly. We saw how well Trossard played when he first came in last season when Jesus was out, and he was brilliant, wasn't he? Him and Martinelli, the switching between the two that they did so well. And yes, it worried me today that he went with Eddie ahead of Trossard, because Trossard is, I think, the better option in the way that we want to play. I mean, I've always said I like a number 9, a centre forward, a traditional centre forward who can hold the ball up, who's going to be in the box, and that's not really the style that we play. And that's a little bit more why I was surprised it wasn't Trossard who started the game or Havertz in that position, because they are the more natural false nines. Eddie's not a false nine, is he? Eddie is a 6-yard box kind of penalty area striker, isn't he, essentially? And what Mikel Arteta has done with him, like he tried to do with Aubameyang and Lacazette as well to a certain degree, is making Eddie have to do different things that maybe isn't natural for him, because he has to drop deeper, link the play. I'm not saying he can't do all those things, he can, but he's not the best player that we've got to do those things. What he is probably best at in our squad, and this is one of the problems for me. He probably is the best sort of penalty box finisher that we've got, isn't he? As a striker, he is, because Jesus isn't a great finisher so much, is he? And Trossard and Havertz are false nines, if anything. They're not centre forwards, and Eddie's the only real centre forward that we've got, and he can finish. His goal scoring record is reasonably good, but overall his overall play isn't good enough if we want to be winning league titles. I don't think any side, any of the top leagues in Europe would be winning the league title with Eddie Nketiah as their striker, even as their second choice striker. He's just not good enough, and that's no disrespect to Eddie, because I like him as a guy and I like him as a player. But where we are now and where we want to be heading, he's not good enough, is he? There can't be a debate about it. No one can say, well, he is, because he's not, is he? He's not good enough for that, where we want to be going, where we should be heading now. Some players unfortunately get left behind as a team moves forward, and maybe that's where Eddie is. I think he's an okay Premier League striker. He'd be great at a club like Crystal Palace or West Ham, something like that. He'd probably be great, and he'd probably score 15 goals a season playing week in, week out. Just for where we want to be, he's not quite what we need, is he? Unfortunately, Steve says, "Hope not, Terry." Yeah, well, let's hope not. No, Madonna says he needs to improve his speed. Well, I mean, if it's not, how do you improve your speed other than going sprint training? And even then, you're not going to improve your speed massively. He's not a natural speedster, is he? It's not his game. It's not how he is. He plays to his. We need to play to his strengths if he's in the team. That's what you have to do, don't you? But says Trossard should have replaced Havertz. Yeah, I mean, Trossard should be playing. I think, especially now with Jesus not in the team, Trossard should be starting. I don't think we can even argue that too much, can we? Because we saw what impact he had last season. We've seen what a great player he is. He should be starting games. Why he's not is something that needs to be addressed a little bit, I think. We'll see what happens in the next few games. But yeah, for me, yeah, he should definitely be playing. Trossard should be. I would say instead, not necessarily instead of Havertz. I think maybe instead of Eddie today. That's what I would have done. But we won the game, and as Rudanda rightly says, Eddie scored today. He did score today, yeah. And as I said, when he's in that 6-yard box, but in that penalty area, he's a pretty good finisher. He is. Let's be honest, he is. But the way that we play, Eddie Nketiah isn't going to score 20 goals a season. Well, nobody probably will. They didn't last season, did they? We scored all those goals. So, but Eddie's not, for me, he's not good enough at linking the play. He's not good enough as a false nine, which is where he needs to play. And then subsequently, because he's having to do the different role, he's not in the box enough to get the best out of him, which is what he did today in those sort of finishes, which he's done a lot. But that's just, I just feel as though, I'm not saying Eddie's a bad player. He's a Premier League, he's a decent enough Premier League striker, but the way that we play and where we want to be going, he's not good enough. He wouldn't be playing as a centre forward in I don't think any of the top 6 teams in the Premier League. He wouldn't be playing as their centre forward. In fact, he probably wouldn't even be their backup striker in most other top 6 teams in the Premier League, I don't think. And that's, he's just not quite at that level, is he? He's a good player. I say Crystal Palace, West Ham, someone like that, Brighton, a team like that, I'm sure he'll do really well. And I hope he has a great career. But he's just not good enough where we need to be, where we want to go. But I don't think too many people can really have an argument against that, as for what Eddie is. Terry says, in my eyes, when I saw the team sheet, it was like starting a game with 9 men. I mean, it was. I was shocked actually when I saw the team sheet. I looked at it and thought, what? I know it was a little bit strange to think, was Thomas Partey playing right back again, because that experiment didn't really work, did it, at the end of last season. Some strange goings on. Poor old Kieran Tierney as well. Not getting an opportunity at all. It was a bit of a shock to see the lineup, if I'm honest. I wasn't expecting too many changes from last week's Community Shield. In the end, it was the shape of the team was different. But anyway, it kind of worked because we won the game, I suppose. Rogendo says there, if he scores every game from now, well, he's not going to score every game, is he? He's not going to score every game. You know, he's not even going to score every other game, is he? Because he's not done that yet, has he? And he's played enough games for Arsenal. And he scored a few goals, yes. Did he get 9 in total last season? Did he get 10 the season before? That's in all competitions, which is okay. But I don't know. That says, would he have improved? Well, I mean, obviously, if this season, if he plays a lot this season, he ends up with 25 Premier League goals, and of course, we'll all have to hold our hands up and say, of course, he's improved because he's gone from getting 5 or 6 Premier League goals last season, whatever he got, to getting 25 this season. Of course, that'll be a massive improvement, even if he gets 10 or 15. But what I've seen, what I saw today, and what I've seen over the last 2 or 3 years, you know, he's not a young player anymore, is he, Eddie? You know, he's played enough games for us. He's got enough experience now. He's what, 23 now, is he? I think maybe coming up for 24. So he's not like a kid anymore. And you know, there's players playing. There's a certain player at Manchester City who's younger than Eddie, I think, who's you know, scored what 250 goals in his career already. So I'm not saying Eddie is anything like that particular player, but I just don't see enough improvement over the last couple of years when he's been in the squad regularly. He's been playing a lot of games for Arsenal to suggest that he's going to make that big improvement. But of course, if he scores, if he's got 10 goals in the next 10, 11 games, fair play to him. You know, we'll hold our hands up and say, yeah, maybe we're wrong. But I just don't, I've not seen enough to suggest that's going to happen for me at this moment in time over the last 2 or 3 years that he's been playing in the team. And I say he's not a kid anymore. He's not 18, 19 years old, is he? So he should have developed more. If he was going to, he would have done by now, wouldn't he? You know, most players who have played that much, as many games, by the time they're 23 years old, 24 years old, have made those improvements and have raised their level. And Eddie hasn't for me, I'm afraid. But let's see. Terry says, if Eddie scores in every game he plays, I'll give you my bungalow. Well, he's obviously not going to score in every game he plays, is he? I mean, he's not. I mean, yeah, so far this season, but he's not going to, is he? You know, in 10 games' time, Eddie may well have scored 3 or 4 goals, maybe, and that'll be it. But that's the same pretty much for all our strikers, though, isn't it? So let's not just pick on Eddie. I mean, Jesus doesn't score enough goals, but Jesus does bring more to the table than Eddie does. Trossard brings more to the table than Eddie does. Havertz, I think, has got the potential to bring more to the table than Eddie does. So, do you know what I mean? It is one of those things, you know. Rajendra says, I'm positive and hope all our players improve and raise their level. Yeah, of course, no. Listen, we all hope that they do, of course. What we want to see is, and I think it's essential now, isn't it? If we're gonna go to that next level from being a team that can challenge for a title potentially to winning big trophies, we do need everybody to improve. You know, we've made some good signings, but we need the players that we've got in the team already. The players that have been here, they've all got to raise their level, and you know, all of us hope that they do. But you can only go off what you've seen in the previous few years to suggest it. Most players don't suddenly get to 24 and start improving. By the time they reach 24, they're almost coming up to their peak years, aren't they? They should be at the level now at that age where that's they've made that progression already, and that's what worries me. Some of our players haven't. Some aren't that age yet, are they? You know, Martinelli is going to improve even more. Brilliant. Odegaard's probably going to improve even more as well. That'd be great. Saka, as we know, is improving all the time. This is what I'm saying. You can see these players progressing. Martinelli and Saka in particular over the last 2 years really improved their level. Eddie hasn't. And that's what makes me think he's not going to improve his level now because, you know, he's not 18, 19 anymore, is he? That's all. I mean, I hope I'm wrong. I hope he goes off and scores 20 goals this season. Brilliant. I just can't see it. Terry says Eddie is 24, 25. Well, yeah, so he's 24. I mean, 25 at the end of the season. So this season he's 24, yeah. And Haaland's 23. So, you know, I'm not saying they're the same player, but Eddie hasn't made that progression since he first broke into the team. Do you remember when he came on and got those 2 goals against Norwich, wasn't it, in the Carabao Cup, or I don't know if it was called the Carabao Cup there, but he got them 2 goals, didn't he? And he came on when he was a young player, got a few goals here and there, and you thought, yeah, you know, he could well be, he's going to develop, but he's not really developed that, has he now? And he's 24. If he hasn't done it now, that's my worry with him. But let's hope we're wrong. Rajendra says Eddie has 2 years to improve. No, he's had 2 years already to improve. hasn't he? He's been in the team for 2 years now. Since he got back from loan on Leeds, he's been in the team, in the squad for 2 years, and he hasn't really made those improvements. So why has he got another 2 years? He'll be 26. He'll be 26 in 2 years' time. At 26, you're at your peak. He should already have made those improvements by now, shouldn't he? To me, he's not going to. But let's see. Terry says, "All we want, we all want that agenda. There's no doubt. Yeah, of course we do. We all want all of our players to improve. But you've just got to look at it from a practical sense. Are they showing signs of consistently improving year after year as they're growing? And some of them have. We've seen already. There's a few in our team that have done that, but Eddie unfortunately hasn't. And yes, he doesn't play as regular as some of the others, and you could say that's what's held him back. And you look at players like Joe Willock, who was similar to me. I always thought Joe Willock and Eddie Nketiah were quite similar in terms of their level, their ceiling as well. I always felt they were quite similar. Those two. Joe Willock never really got to play regular for Arsenal. He's got to Newcastle, and the Newcastle fans love him, and he's playing well because he's playing more regular football. Does that mean he suddenly would have reached that level with Arsenal had he stayed and played? Who knows? He was probably never going to play, was he? And maybe that's what Eddie needs. I think Eddie maybe would benefit from moving to a club where he's going to play regular football. And I think, and we may well see Eddie may well make those improvements quicker because he's playing every week. And maybe that's what he needs for his career. I don't think it's going to happen at Arsenal because as soon as Jesus is fit, Eddie won't play, will he? Look what he's done to Trossard. Trossard was brilliant when Jesus was out. As soon as Jesus was back, Trossard was on the bench. And Trossard's been on the bench ever since. So, what chance has Eddie got, really, of developing at Arsenal? Probably none, because he's not going to get the chances. So, I think he needs to go, personally, and he can really improve his career and end up having a really decent Premier League career somewhere else. With a club that maybe plays a different system and maybe hasn't got the same expectations on the club to be challenging and winning big trophies. Steve says there, first half of last season, Eddie saved us. Well, it wasn't really the first half of the season, was it? It was, he only really came in when Jesus was injured, and he had a little spell where he scored a few goals. But again, you see what happened after that. He scored a few goals, then he had a run where he couldn't score a goal. So that's the thing with him, isn't it? That's the consistency that you need. If you're a goal scorer in a Premier League team that's challenging at the top of the league, you've got to be scoring consistently. It's no good scoring 4 in 4 games and then scoring none for the next 6 or 7 games. You need to spread those goals out more. You need to be regularly, consistently scoring. And he's not ever been able to do that. He hasn't had to run in the team generally, but when he has, I don't think he's quite managed to do it, has he? The general says Martinelli will take over as the best Brazilian soon. Yeah, I mean, Martinelli's, he's exactly the type of player that we've been talking about. He's improving year after year, isn't he? I think this is going to be a really big season for Martinelli, actually. He scored his most goals ever last season. He was brilliant. And I think this season as well, we're really going to see Martinelli kick on again to another level this season. So I'm looking forward to seeing how he develops, actually. General says that everyone improves until they get to 26, with other exceptions who improve till later age. Well, no, but what you've got to look at is, I don't think that's necessarily true. I mean, what you get is more experience as you play more and you get older and you gain more experience, don't you, of playing in the big games against big opposition and whatever. And you get more experience. Are you improving as a player? Yes, to a certain degree, but most players have reached. You can see the level that a player is going to reach. By the time they're 24, you've seen what level they can reach. They're not going to improve massively after that, are they? I say the only thing that's going to improve is experience. Sometimes in experience you make better decisions under pressure because you've had more experience of that. But as a player overall, you're probably not going to really improve much more, are you? You're going to start slowing down because you're getting older. You're going to maybe get a few more injuries. So yeah, if you haven't reached the level that you should reach, but I would say if you've been playing, for a good few years, by the time you're 24, you should know what your level is. Everyone should know what your level is. You're not going to improve much more after that, are you? Just on the experience side. Terry says, who will buy Eddie when he's on 100k a week is my worry. Well, I mean, unless he's prepared to drop his wages, which some players are. Some players are prepared to take a smaller contract, aren't they? If it means they're going to play every week, maybe he will. I don't know. I mean, if I was Eddie, he's sitting £100 a week. Just put your feet up and think, well, who cares, really? Depends what ambition he's got as a player. If he wants to play every week, I'm surprised he wouldn't. If you're a footballer, sure, that's what you want to do. You know, whatever level of football you've played, yeah, you want to play every game, as many games as possible, don't you? So, but if you get an £100 a week, it's a bit of a cushion, isn't it? If you're on the bench and you think, well, I've got £100 a week, so it's not the end of the world, is it? So that would be cool. Regenda says if you remove the defence from Man City, will Haaland score? Well, I mean, I don't know. Haaland scored goals before he was at Man City. You look at his goal scoring record in Germany. Haaland will score goals, I think, for any team, because his movement in and around the box and his clinicalness in front of goal, and his power and his pace and everything else about him means he'll always score goals, whoever he plays for. Would he score as many goals in a different team? I don't know. He scored plenty in Germany, didn't he? And I can just see, imagine Haaland in this Arsenal team. You know, you can't tell me this Haaland in this Arsenal team would not score 20 times more goals than Eddie Nketiah will ever score. You can't convince me of that. I'm sorry. If Haaland was in our team, he would be scoring bundles of goals, 40, 50 a season like he has done, because we have the ball in that end of the pitch a lot. And yes, Man City have had to adapt the way they play, and even sometimes it doesn't always work. You look at last night's game, you know, so many times Haaland was in great positions, he didn't get the ball. He still scored 2 goals though, didn't he? In the chances that he gets, he's clinical. Eddie isn't, you know, and that's the different levels, isn't it? And Haaland is an exceptional player. We can't compare anybody to Haaland. But the fact he's 24 now, he's a lot of experience. Eddie Nketiah, he should have progressed in the end. Terry says, I really can't see what Arteta sees in Eddie. I'm not really sure. His attitude, I would say, like Arteta's got a big thing about attitude, so I would say it's more to do with his attitude as much as anything else. That's why he's still around, isn't it? So I would say, Terry says, the problem is Man City do have the players. Well, yeah, exactly, they do, yeah. And our players aren't quite as good. Steve says, don't think Haaland will have same year as last season. I don't know. Is he going to score 52 goals again in all competitions? Maybe not, because it's difficult to score 50 goals 2 seasons running. It's difficult enough to score it 1 season. I'm sure he'll get 35, 40 goals. It's enough in it, let's be honest. It's more than enough in it. Pretty sure he will. Steve says, yeah, seen that dog on TV. More like draw. I don't know what that was in relation to. Anyway, Regina says Eddie had problems because we lost our number 2 defender and then parties was it. No, so you can't keep making excuses for Eddie. You know, we finished second in the league last season. We scored 88 league goals, something like that, wasn't it? And Eddie played a lot of games and he scored 5 league goals out of 88. And that was in various different spells in the season where we had different players fit and different players not fit. You know, look at Man City's team. They rotate their players, and Haaland still scored 52 goals. So let's not. Eddie's got to do more himself as well. He's looking at Eddie's own ability. You know, yes, players around you make a difference. Of course they do. You're playing a better team with more chances created. But look at the players around Eddie. You know, look at the goals that Martinelli scored. Look at the number of goals Saka scored. Look at the number of goals Ødegaard scored. They're not even strikers. The chances are there in this team when Eddie played, and he didn't take enough of them, and that's why he got left out of the team in the end. He was in the team and he got left out. Why? Because he wasn't consistently doing what he needed to do. Even Arteta could see it, you know. So that's unfortunately where we are. But then it says if you can't get the ball to him, then how's he going to score? No, but it's not like he's not getting chance. He hasn't had chances. Yeah, sometimes that's the case, but then he's got to be more intelligent, hasn't he? You know, if Saka's scoring goals, if Martinelli's scoring, why are they scoring goals? They're scoring goals because their position that they take up in the right areas, and we've got the ball in certain places. They know where they have to be, and they get there and they put the ball away. Eddie needs to improve that then, doesn't he? If he's not getting the ball, he's got to look and think why. When the ball's out on the left-hand side, where do I need to be to get a chance to score? And put yourself in. That's what Haaland does. He almost does it automatically because it's natural for him. And it should be natural for Eddie as a goal scorer. It isn't then, is it? If that's the problem. Haaland knows where he needs to be. He doesn't always get the ball, but he'll always be in the right place. And eventually the ball comes to him and he'll score. And that's the way it is. And that's what Eddie's got to. He should have got the hang of that by now. Because I say he's 24. He's played a lot of games. And he still hasn't really got the hang of it. But anyway, I don't want to talk about Eddie anymore because we've maybe exhausted him. I do want to talk about Declan Rice. Now, I thought Declan Rice today a bit similar to last week to a certain degree. He seems to start the game and he's not doing anything too flash. He's just getting the ball, passing the ball, getting the ball, passing the ball, and that's great. So that's fine, and he's doing a good job there. And then I thought in the second half he got a little bit more expansive, didn't he? He was having some shots. He nearly scored, didn't he, at the post and stuff like that. And I thought he looked good again today. I'm really excited. What I like about Declan Rice, as much as anything else, apart from the fact that he's a great player and he's had some decent games, I just like the way that he's playing with a smile on his face all the way through the game, isn't he? He's smiling, he's laughing, he's enjoying himself, and that's what's great for me. And I thought he had a decent game today. I say he sort of grew into it. I know we didn't have a great second half as a team, but I thought he did. He had a better second half, I thought, than first half in terms of the impact that he made on the game, maybe. But I thought he. I like what I'm seeing from Declan Rice. I kind of knew what he was going to be like. Again, he's a little bit adaptable, isn't he? He's maybe switching positions during the game a little bit. He's a little bit more freedom in the second half today than he did last week to get forward a bit more. And I kind of like what he did. He looks a very, very, we know what he's like. He's like a Rolls Royce there, isn't he? He's going to win the ball. He can pass the ball. He glides around the pitch, doesn't he? He just looks quite elegant as a player. So, yeah, we know he's going to be a great signing. I don't want to keep looking at the price we paid for him and think, oh my God, for 100 million, we've got a Declan Rice instead of a Haaland type player. But Declan Rice is very, very good at what he does, exceptional. And I've enjoyed watching him so far. So happy days as far as I'm concerned. So, yeah, Declan Rice is starting to become one of my favourite players at the minute. Just, I say, the way he's smiling in games, it's just brilliant to see, isn't it? So I'm enjoying that, definitely. But Daniel says there, why did we lose those games towards the end of last season? Because our bottle went. That's why we lost the game at the end of the season. We just run out of belief. Terry says, let's be fair, Haaland only played half the season and was subbed a lot of the time. Imagine if he played all. Well, yeah, he was adapting, wasn't he? But you saw last night in the first half, he had 8 touches of the ball and scored 2 goals. That's what you're living with. That's what you're dealing with, aren't you? A player that can do that. So he doesn't need a lot of the ball, does he? He doesn't need. He can play half a game and he's going to still score 40 goals, isn't he? It doesn't mean he'll score 80 if he played a full game, because he's only effective in small spells, isn't he? He gets a few touches here and there and he scored a goal, and then he won't touch the ball for 20 minutes. So take him off for those 20 minutes, not make any difference, is it? But, he is what he is. We know what he's going to do. Steve says that's scary. Yeah, it is scary. That's what we're up against. Not just him, but he's the main one, isn't he? John says Martinelli was kicked out of our season by Brighton. I mean, that was right at the very end, wasn't it? I mean, he was playing pretty well, wasn't he, before then? And he's going to push on this season, I'm sure. Terry says Rice looks like a fantastic player. I mean, I think to say a fantastic buy would tend to suggest it's a good value for money kind of player. And I'm not saying he won't be worth the 100 million in the end, but I look at it and think 100 million seems very expensive for the sort of player that he is, as good as he is. But I suppose that's the price you have to pay, and he's doing well. Regina says Declan was good today. He was, yeah, and will soon score a few goals. Yeah, I think he will. Yeah, I mean, what I liked about him today as well, he's not frightened to have a shot, is he, from outside the box, which sometimes we criticise players for in Arsenal, not doing that enough. And Declan it looks like he's going to have a fair old few pops from outside the box, and I'm sure there'll be a few flying as well. He scored a few for West Ham, didn't he? So looking forward to him getting a few as well. Terry says, Steve, I hope so. You come out with some hilarious. He does. Steve's quality, isn't he? We love Steve, definitely. But yeah, I thought Declan Rice today really, really good again, as he was last week. So yeah, really looking. He's going to improve in our team, isn't he? Again, as he adapts to the system. He said it himself, hasn't he? He's learning every day, and he's going to improve. There's no doubt about that. But what a start he's had so far. He's been great, hasn't he? So yeah, really, really enjoying Declan Rice. And of course, the other new signing today, Julian Timber. I thought it was a bit of a mixed game for him, if I'm honest. I thought he had a really good game last week in the Community Shield. He was all right today. He wasn't terrible. He got that booking, didn't he? A bit of a late challenge in the first half, then picked up that injury. So it wasn't really a great day, was it, for Timber today, unfortunately. But he's a young player. He looks like he's going to be a really good signing overall for us. So let's hope the injury's not too bad and he can come back. I mean, yeah, he was okay today, Timber, wasn't he, until he had to go off. But yeah, probably not a day he'll look back on with too much fondness. Unfortunately, his debut at the Emirates didn't quite go as he may have hoped. But yeah, he's another good signing, isn't he? He's going to be good. And of course, we didn't see the other signing, David Ray, yet, have we? But I'm sure we'll see him soon. I want to talk about him as well. So just quickly, I want to run through maybe the player ratings for the game. Then I mean, we started Aaron Ramsdale in goal. He didn't have a lot to do, did he? Let's be honest. He couldn't really have done too much with the goal. I wouldn't want to blame him for the goal necessarily. It was at the near post, which is a little bit of a worry. But I mean, overall, he didn't have a lot to do, did he? Maybe a 7 for Ramsdale. He did okay, didn't he? He made a good save in the second half, didn't he? When it was 2-0. Regina says Timber was very good. But we've done about it. I mean, he was okay today. I just thought he had a bit of a mixed game, didn't he? You know, he got a book for a little bit of a late challenge. He got injured, and he had a bit of a mixed time with it all, didn't he? Terry says, "What do you reckon on these new rules that came?" Well, the new rules take a little bit of time to get used to, don't they? Regina says we lost our steam when Timber. Well, we did a little bit. It seemed to coincide with the second half performance, didn't it? Whether that's the reason, yeah, maybe it is. But yeah, Timber's going to be a great player. Don't get me wrong. I just thought it wasn't his day today, was it? In the end, obviously not. So, but yes, I thought Ramsdale maybe a 7. I thought the back three were reasonably good. Ben White maybe 6. Saliba was okay, wasn't he? Solid enough, maybe a 7. And say Timber, he only played half a game, maybe 6 for him, just because he only got to play half a game. I thought the midfield was okay, wasn't it? I thought Declan Rice was good. I mean, I'll give him a 7. I thought he had a decent game today, Declan Rice, didn't he? Ødegaard, a little bit in and out of the game, wasn't he? Ødegaard, obviously on the ball, he's brilliant, but I don't know, he was a little bit hit and miss. Maybe a 6 for him. Havertz again, maybe a 6. I thought he was a little bit in and out of the game a little bit as well, wasn't he? He had some good moments as well. So maybe a 6 for Havertz today. And then of course in the front three, I thought Saka, what a goal, brilliant. I mean, he deserves a 7 or 8 for that goal on its own, doesn't it? I thought he was decent enough. He couldn't quite get back quick enough for the goal, couldn't he, for Forest? But I don't really blame him for that. So I think maybe a 7 for Saka. I thought Martin on the other one, he looked lively, a 7 for him as well. Eddie got his goal. You've got to give Eddie a 7, haven't we? You've got to give Eddie a 7 because he got his goal. And oh yeah, Thomas Partey. I forgot about Thomas Partey. Thomas Partey 7. Yeah, I mean Thomas Partey. Yeah, maybe a 7 for him. He played all right, didn't he? Ødegaard's 7 from Jandre, Declan Rice 7 as well. Yeah, Timber. He's got 8 for Timber. I mean, I just think 8's a little bit because he only played half a game. And he did get booked as well in that first half. So that maybe, if he played a full game, he may well have got an 8. Redendra got Martinelli 8, Saka 7, Eddie 7. Yeah, I don't know. I think Saka slightly better than Martinelli, maybe slightly. I mean, the goal maybe influences that a little bit. Martinelli played well, yeah. So yeah, I thought everybody was around about sort of 6 and 7s, wasn't they? Because it wasn't an outstandingly brilliant performance. It wasn't a terrible performance. It was an okay performance. Everybody did okay. Could have done better in certain aspects of that game, but yeah, it was okay, wasn't it? So average scores maybe all round. It was one of them sort of performances, really, wasn't it? In the end, Regina says have at 6.5. Well, yeah, I'll give. Yeah, maybe I don't know. I think I gave him a 6, didn't I? He was okay, Havertz. Don't get me wrong. He just wasn't brilliant. But then not many of them really stood out today as being brilliant, did they? None of them were at their best, I didn't think. Certainly wasn't our best performance. And I'm sure, as the season progresses, we won't look back on this performance and say, oh, God, that game against Nottingham Forest was great, wasn't it? I don't think too many people will. Regina has gone Trossard 5. He wasn't really on the pitch very long, was he? I thought he did a couple of nice things. It's difficult to give any of the subs much of a score because they didn't play. I thought Tommy Asu probably played the longest. He had half a game. He was maybe a 6, wasn't he? He did okay, Tommy Asu, didn't he? Yeah, as Madame says, he's not long enough. Yeah, he wasn't on long enough, Trossard, was he, really, to make a lot of impact? I thought he did okay. But yeah, 5 or 6 probably is the most you could expect to give any of the subs today. Obviously, Gabriel came on right at the end and did he touch the ball? He may have done a couple of times, but yeah, you can't really give the subs too much of a score, can you, when they're not on the pitch for very long. So yeah, I would say the best way to describe that game for me today was an average performance overall. We had some good moments in the game, especially in that first half. The second goal in particular was a brilliant goal, an early contender for goal in a month, wasn't it, from Bukayo Saka today? But other than that, a little bit hit and miss of a performance, wasn't it? But we got the win, and we've got to be happy with that. Regina says Tommy 5. I thought Tommy did all right in the second half. I thought, considering he's not played a lot of football lately, I thought he did okay. So yeah, I'll maybe give him maybe a 6 just because I feel a bit sorry for him actually because he's not playing much, is he? And he did all right today. Terry says only manager allowed in the box. If the manager gets sent off, he's not allowed to watch the game from the stadium and can't give interviews after the game. But nothing on refs doing interviews. Yeah, I mean, a lot of that stuff there is stuff that's not really important overall, is it? You know, there's a lot wrong with the rules of the game, and there's a lot wrong with football at the moment. And you know, they decide that the manager being in the box or the assistant manager not being in the box is an important issue, and it's not. You know, that's not one of the things they should be looking at. The standard of refereeing needs to improve. VAR should be scrapped. There's loads of things. Time wasting needs to be looked at with cards on the pitch. There's loads of different things they could do. The offside, the handball, and yet they decided that, oh, that's more important. So let's change that. Sounds like the people that run this game, doesn't it? Rajendra says, I felt he was not with the team in. Well, yeah, but he's not played, has he? And that's why he's not playing enough football, is he? You can't expect a player who's been sitting on the bench and he's obviously had injury problems as well to come in and be straight away in pace with the game. You're not going to be. It takes a bit of rhythm to get into it. So I kind of expected him to be a bit like that. But I thought he did okay. I had no problems with Tommy. I was glad to see him on the pitch for as long as he got, because that's the longest he's played for ages. I just like seeing it. I think he's a good player. I like him, and it's nice when he gets some minutes on. So it wasn't really his fault. He's not played much, and he needs more game time, doesn't he? Steve says he only played 15 good minutes. Arsenal, yeah, maybe a bit more than that if you break it down overall. We had a really good spell in the middle of the first half, and we got the 2 goals. Obviously, we had a good spell then, and we had good spells either side of that as well. Second half, not so much. But yeah, it was an average performance. We can't argue with that. I think that's obvious. It was an average performance. It wasn't a brilliant performance. So he says kicking the ball away straight. Well, that's always been a straight though, isn't it? Kicking the ball away. I'm not sure if that's changed, is it necessarily? Anyway, James says Ben 6 got a yellow taking too long. He did, yeah. He got a yellow card for some ways, didn't he, Ben White? Plus, as well, I thought he didn't cover himself in too much glory with a goal, did he? He allowed that good movement from Awambi getting across him. But as a defender, you've maybe got to get into that. You've got to stop that play getting across you, haven't you? Into that near post. So he was a little bit at fault for the goal, maybe. And yeah, he got a yellow card. Yeah, I think a 6 is probably fair. I think I gave him a 6, didn't I? I can't remember now, but yeah, that would be fair for me. I think everyone in that team today was maybe a 6 or a 7. No one was maybe above that really overall, were they? And no one was really below that. It was just an average sort of performance, wasn't it? A bit of a nothing game in a way. But we got the win, and I suppose at the end of the season, if we won the league by less than 3 points, we'll look on these 3 points at the start. And I remember the invincible season, we started with a 2-1 home win against Everton, didn't we? So, let's look on the positives. It wasn't a brilliant performance. I think we expect sometimes maybe too much from this team. And ultimately, you've got to get the results. And if you don't play well and you win, then it's happy days, isn't it? But yeah, we're going to face bigger and stronger tests of Nottingham Forest, aren't we, going forward? And we're going to have to improve. Let's be honest. That's pretty much what needs to happen. But yeah, we got the win. We started the season well. We have got 3 points on the board, which is the same as Man City have got. So it doesn't matter they won 3-0. We've got 3 points. They've got 3 points. Happy days so far. So let's have a look at the other scores now, because obviously there's a few 3 o'clock games. There's not been many goals, has it? Bournemouth 0, West Ham 0, Brighton 1, Luton 0. The goal scorer for them was Sonny March after 36 minutes. Everton 0, Fulham 0, Sheffield United 0, Crystal Palace 0. So not many goals at all. Just that one goal in the 3 o'clock games at Brighton. And of course, Newcastle play Aston Villa tonight, which could be a good game actually. I might watch that later on. So yeah, we'll see what happens with another game. But we've got a win. We're joint top of the table, and we'll remain joint top of the table tonight because nobody can get more than 3 points in their first game, can they? So we've done all that we can do. Vijendra says maybe a new invincible season. Well, maybe, but I'm not convinced it will be an invincible season. Let's hope it's a successful season. That's what we want to see. Don't get a trophy on the board. Terry says 700 million. I want a lot better than we got today. Yeah, I mean, I think we all need. Yeah, I think there won't be too many Arsenal fans that will look back on today and be satisfied with what happened, other than the fact we got 3 points. And we've got to build on this and improve. We've got to improve. That's the point, isn't it? And I'm sure we will. But we won the game, and at the end of the day, I'll take a few scrappy wins throughout the season because you've got to be able to win even when you don't play well. And yes, at home to Forest, you should win a lot more easier than 2-0. We were 2-0 up. We was in a fantastic position to win the game. And yeah, we kind of struggled a bit. You said we started with 2-1. Yeah, we did. In the Invincible season, we started with a 2-1 win. Although we had a player sent off that day. Was it Sol Campbell got sent off? I can't remember, in that the first game of the Invincible season against Everton, and we won 2-1 with 10 men. And it wasn't a brilliant performance, but we got the job done, and we built from that, didn't we? And maybe that'll happen again. Who knows? Regina says, which players did not play today? You mean? Well, obviously, Jesus is injured, isn't he? So he didn't play. Smith Rowe didn't come on. Tierney didn't play. There was a few, wasn't there? Vieira. So, yeah, I mean, we've got other players to come in, but at this moment in time would be not far off our starting. Obviously, Trossard came on, didn't he? So today, it's not far off our strongest starting 11, is it? I'd put Trossard in instead of Eddie, personally. I just think he brings more to the team. But we'll see what happens. Obviously, next week, another difficult game, isn't it? Away from home, it's never easy. Your first away game, it's tough, isn't it? To look on the games as they come. But we're away from home next week against Crystal Palace. That's on a Monday, isn't it? What a chew. Monday, yeah. So Crystal Palace away, so that's going to be a tough game as well. But we've got a decent enough record against them, haven't we? So let's see what happens. But yeah, I'm sure we'll do well in that one. And let's see. Crystal Palace away last season was our first game. We won 2-0 and pushed on. Maybe we can do the same. Maybe we can do the same this year. Terry says, I wanted to show the rest of the Premier in this game by blowing Forest away to show them in business. Yeah, that would have been nice, wouldn't it? And at 2-0 up in 30 minutes, we had the opportunity to do that, didn't we? To push on and show everyone, look, here we go. This Arsenal team's going to go on and dominate this league, and we didn't do it. And that was disappointing. But you're not going to be able to do that every game, are you? Sometimes you have to just get the result. And today, that's what we did. And let's just see how we progress from this win today over the next few weeks. If we don't, and if the performance is getting worse or not getting any better, then we can then look at that and say this isn't great. But if we improve from here, go on and we win, we win the next 3 or 4 games playing better, then we'll look back on this and say, yeah, that's it was a decent enough start. So after this game, I can't see any of the top teams being that worried. But yeah, I know, but sometimes the first few games, the first few games are, I don't know, I don't read too much into it really, because certain teams are at different levels in terms of their preparation pre-season and what have you. I like to look at it after 5 or 6 games and see where everybody is. I watched Man City's game last night. Although they won 3-0, I didn't look at them and think, oh my God, how great were they? You look at them and think, we're not that. If we were playing them next week, I wouldn't be overly worried about playing Man City, for example. So, let's not read too much into a one-off performance. We need to be better from our own point of view. We have to play better than we did in that second half today, or we're not going to do very much this season. That's obvious. But I believe we will improve from that. We won't play that badly very often. There will be times when we do, obviously, like everybody. But yeah, I just want to see. Honestly, over the next 3 or 4 games, see a progression in the performances, and hopefully that's what we will see. We'll get consistently good results, keep ourselves up there in near the top of the table, and that's all we can do. So yeah, that's what I'm hoping that we do. But let's see. Today's today. We've won the game. It was frustrating. It was disappointing performance. We know that. We know all that. But let's see where we go from here. But that's game 1 out of the way. There's only 37 more to go. Not so very many, is it? Of course, there's lots of other games this season as well, isn't there? Champions League and whatever. So, yeah, lots to be excited about. Regina says there, the team in the second half showed not enough fitness. Is that because players played only half a game in the pre-season? Well, I mean, the preparation for the season has got to be on the responsibility of the coaching staff and the fitness people, all that kind of stuff. They must know, they should know, the preparation should be right so that when you kick off the season, you're ready to go. And I'm not saying we wasn't ready to go today. Was it a fitness issue? Maybe it was. I'm not really sure what happened in that second half, if I'm honest. It didn't really, it wasn't, other than Nottingham Forest, maybe played better. Maybe we need to give them some credit. But yeah, it wasn't great second half, was it? And it could have been a fitness thing. It could have been a number of different reasons. I don't know. But whatever it is, I'm sure that the Arteta and his team will go away, analyse it, realise what went wrong, and hopefully put those things right for the next few games, because that's all we can do now, isn't it? That game's gone. Steve says, let's see after five. Exactly, yeah, let's see after 5 or 6 games where we are. And if we're still not playing, we're still playing like this in 5 or 6 games, then we need to start maybe worrying and think, where's this season going? But if in 5 or 6 games we're growing into the season as it goes along, that's great, isn't it? Let's see what happens. Andrew says, could the delay have caused a problem? Well, you say that, but the first half was okay, wasn't it? You'd have imagined that if there was a problem because of the delay, that would have been in the first half, wouldn't it, rather than the second half? But anyway, Terry says, but if you go on the last 2 seasons, we only show up for 29 games. Well, yeah, or maybe less than that in the season before, maybe 25. Yeah, I mean, on that delay, actually, that's, to me, that was a concern as big as what we saw on the pitch in the second half, actually. The fact that, they brought in this new e-ticketing scheme and it was a complete disaster. Did they not try all this out before? Obviously not. We've not had a home game. And I don't know why they think that's such a good idea. There's nothing wrong. What I don't understand, I mean, there's been a few changes to the ticketing system at Arsenal this season. And they seem to think that having paper tickets is making more of an issue with touts, for example, and people charging too much money for tickets, which you've got to say, when you look at it, is probably a fair point. But then at the same time, you've got Arsenal selling tickets on to companies like Ticketmaster, who are then selling them on for £288 for like a £35 ticket. And Arsenal enable that to happen by releasing those tickets to those agencies, because they get a cut, obviously. So, yeah, then to try and clamp down on people sharing tickets, like, say, for example, stopping people sharing tickets, buying tickets and giving them to someone else to go to the game, that they want to seem to cut down on that rather than cut down the big problem of why don't you stop selling those tickets to Ticketmaster? Why don't you sell them to real fans? And then after those problems will be alleviated in the first place. And Arsenal seem to have their priorities all wrong, because all they're worried about is the money they're making from people like Ticketmaster. Clearly, there's Arsenal have had a deal with Ticketmaster going back for years. Ticketmaster have sold Arsenal tickets for decades, right? And they've always made a massive profit on them. Obviously, Arsenal are profiting from that as well. They must be, or they wouldn't have an agreement with her. I mean, Ticketmaster are basically legal touts, aren't they? Let's be honest. All those ticket agencies are. If anybody, when you're seeing a Ticketmaster selling Arsenal tickets for 200 odd quid, 300 quid, it's robbery, quite honestly. And Arsenal are involved in that by giving them the tickets in the first place. How else are they getting them? Where are they getting them from? Do you know what I mean? If all these ticket agencies have got Arsenal tickets, they haven't made them up themselves, have they? Where have they bought them from? They bought them from Arsenal. They were giving them from Arsenal. Probably bought them from Arsenal, and then at cheaper prices potentially, and selling them on for all that profit. Why don't Arsenal stop that and say, no, we're going to sell all our tickets to all of our fans, and that's it. We're not going to use ticket agencies anymore. Why do Arsenal need to? Arsenal could sell tickets themselves. People would buy them. But it's not like, oh my God, we need to see if the ticket agencies might sell more tickets than we can. No, Arsenal don't need to do that. You know what I mean? It's just about money, and they need to look at that rather than trying to stop real fans sharing tickets with their mates. Do you know what I mean? That seems to be what they're cutting down. You've got to bring ID with you to prove it's your ticket. Come on, Arsenal, do better than that. Stop selling tickets to ticket agencies. Stop allowing that to happen, and let real fans have the tickets. And if a season ticket holder wants to give their ticket to their mate because they can't go, let them do it. Who cares? If someone buys a ticket for an away game and they can't go, they want their mate to go. Let their mate go. What difference does it make? It's not a problem, is it? The problem is ticket agencies. That is the problem, and you can fix that yourselves. So do it. And today was an absolute disaster. And if you get that wrong again in the next home game, honestly, you should bin that system off completely. Go back to a ticket system like it used to be, and stop trying to be clever, and stop trying to focus on the wrong things that aren't important, like seems to happen in life. But certainly that was ridiculous today. I mean, that was just mad. Virginia says there, could the delay? Oh, we said that before. Yeah, Terry says there. But if we go on to last 2 seasons, no, we said that was all. Sorry. Steve says, won't worry about the tickets playing like today. Well, no, but they'll still sell the tickets, won't they? Terry says, watch the film 1984. Going all tech doesn't ever work out well for us anyway. Well, I mean, the film 1984 is obviously quite poignant, isn't it, over the last few years, if you watch the film 1984. George Orwell was had his finger on the pulse, didn't he? That dude. Brilliant books he wrote as well, a few, didn't he? 1984, yes. Steve says, I thought $100 is a lot in Aussie rules. Is that how much it costs for Aussie rules? Is it $100? I mean, I don't know what the exchange rate is in Australia. What would that work out to in our money? Obviously, Premier League tickets are, at the Emirates can be 75, 80 quid, can't they? You can get them cheaper as well, but I don't know what that would work out to $100 in Australian money. Steve says, go to games, pay, walk in. Well, that's what I used to love that about football. You could just pay on a day and walk in. You can't do that anymore. They can't do that at the Emirates just because there's seats now and they can only have the seats are filled. Like everyone's got to be in their own seat. So they need to sell tickets. I'll get that, and that's fine. But why are they clamping down on real fans exchanging tickets with their mates rather than the ticket agency issue, which is the big problem, isn't it? And it's the one thing I will say is I quite like the fact that they're doing this ballot now. So what happens is with a ballot that it may give different fans opportunities to get tickets rather than just the same people because they had credits built up, whatever it is, and at least allowing different people to be able to get tickets to go to the games. I kind of like that idea, and that should be implemented because I think it's only fair. I'm sick and tired of seeing people on Twitter saying, I can't get a ticket this season, and I went to loads of games last season. Yeah, but like 4 years ago, you didn't want to go, did you? You wasn't interested in going. So stop moaning now that the team are doing better and you want to go and you can't. Do you know what I mean? It's just ridiculous. It's a fair system to let everybody get an opportunity to go, even if you can't go to every game. Make it fair so that if more people can go to more games than before, that's better. And if some people are going to go to less games because of that, then that's just the way it is, isn't it? And that's, buy a season ticket, you want to go every game. If you haven't got a season ticket, you've got to take your chances, haven't you? Basically, I like that idea. They need to find a way to make it work better, and they need to stop all this nonsense about electronic tickets. Or if they're going to do that, at least get the system to work before they use it. But anyway, Terry says £51.41. Is that actually it? I've just made that up. I'm not sure. But I mean, 51 quid. I mean, on average, 51 quid for a Premier League ticket at Emirates was probably about right, isn't it? When you think there's a few cheaper than that, a few more expensive, so that's probably about the same, isn't it? So if that's the price of Aussie rules, it's probably similar, isn't it? Then I would say. Steve says then they make you buy a seat, no more standing area. Yeah, I mean, obviously that was a safety issue, wasn't it? I personally think that they could. I mean, some grounds have got safe standing now. The Emirates hasn't. I don't know whether they're going to do that. I think now the situation is different. They could have standing. They could have proper standing again. They don't need to have all-seater stadium or that safe stand. They could actually have proper standing now. And it's the issues that they had before were to do with the state the grounds are in there. The grounds aren't in that state now. They're new grounds, most of them. And if they're not a new ground, they've been modernised so much over the last 25 years that we could have standing as it was. We could have terracing as it was without the issues that or the dangers that were there before. I believe we could do that now, and that's what we should do. You get more people in the stadium, wouldn't you? If they took all the seats out of the North Bank and the Clockhead at the Emirates and just had terraces, the ground would probably hold 75,000. Wouldn't be a problem, would there? You know what I mean? Still maybe making more ticket, but you can have a terrace ticket. You can just stand where you want. Get a better atmosphere, better experience of the games. I personally think people stand up anyway, so let's just do that, and it would be safe. Arsenal was always safe anyway because we didn't have fences around our ground, and it was the fences that was a problem, not the terracing mainly. But anyway, that's a separate issue. But we could definitely have standing terracing again in football, and it should be. Everybody should be pushing for it. Fan groups should be pushing for it. Clubs should be pushing for it because they'd get more fans in the ground. All the attendances would go up, wouldn't they? If you took out seats and put terracing back there, you'd probably add 25% to your crowd, wouldn't it? Maybe more. In some grounds would probably add more. Imagine in Arsenal, if the lower tier, they can make the lower tier at the Emirates, all of it, all the way round, terracing. We could get that ground 75,000, probably, maybe even more potentially, and it would be safe. It would be safe, let's be honest, because it was never really terracing that was a problem. Terry says Siri told, well, yeah, Siri though, I'm not always sure if we trust Siri, do we? But anyway, maybe that's right. And if it is, that's about a similar price, isn't it? For Aussie rules as it is to watching the Premier League. So that's fair enough. So yeah, that was a total disaster today. They kick off early because of the TV times all fit into place. It's a half hour late anyway. They might have just kicked off at 3 o'clock. We're done with it anyway. Yeah, Arsenal need to improve that. Obviously, for the next game, they've got to. We can't go through this every single home game again. Ridiculous. You know, the number of that was an issue today, wasn't it? The number of people outside, people get a little bit of you get stressed, don't you? And you can't get in. We've all been in that situation before where you can't get in. It's 10, 15 minutes to kick off and you're panicking, but I'm going to miss the game. Obviously, they made an announcement reasonably early, didn't they? Well, it wasn't actually that early, but they made an announcement there to say that they was going to delay the kickoff. They should have done that sooner anyway. But yeah, they need to sort that issue out because it obviously wasn't great. And I felt sorry for anybody that was stuck in that outside the ground. Yes, you should get there earlier, not a problem. But anyway, people don't. But yeah, that's got to be better. And Arsenal need to stop focusing on the wrong things and stop giving tickets to Ticketmaster. Please, Arsenal, stop doing that. You've done it long enough. Stop it. End that contract and just sell the tickets yourself because you've got the facilities to do it. You've got the staff to do it. You don't need to use an agency. So please stop that. But yeah, other than that, yeah, that kind of just summed up the day a little bit, really, didn't it? A disaster before the game. The performance wasn't great, but we won the game. So let's just rejoice in that for the time being, and move on to next week. So yeah, just to remind you, and coming up on the channel, 7:30 tonight, so another 3 hours or so, we'll be here with the World Cup 2023 review show. We've got Amar with us. No Andreas tonight, unfortunately, because he's busy living his life. But we have got a very, very special guest instead, replacing Andreas for tonight. And you definitely do not want to miss that because it's going to be great. Our special guest is going to be great as well. So join us at 7:30 for that. That's going to be good. We've got the Arsenal review show, the new Arsenal review show on Tuesday with host Adam. He's going to be more prepared this week. Last week was a bit of a disaster, so we got a show done. It wasn't as we planned, but Adam's got that in hand for Tuesday this week, so join him for that. Obviously, Wednesday night we'll be back for the semi-final, England Lionesses. We won't be able to do a live watch along, obviously, but we will be back for a review of that game on Wednesday evening. So please join us for that because that is a semi-final of the World Cup, 5th semi-final in a row for the Lionesses. Brilliant. So join us for that Wednesday, and then of course. Next weekend, no game actually is there next weekend, but there could be a World Cup final on Sunday, so we'll see. We'll do a watch along of that for definite. And of course, Monday night, Crystal Palace, we'll do the watch along of that. And then of course, Tuesday again, the week after, we're back on the Arsenal review. So that's going to be how things are going for the time. Of course, the women's season will be starting in October, so we'll be obviously Arsenal have got some Champions League qualifiers before that, so we've got loads of stuff coming up anyway over the rest of this season, and one or two new shows thrown in as well as we go along, and one or two surprises as well. But that's it for the time being anyway. So Arsenal started the season with a win. We won, of course, the Community Shield as well. So it's not been a bad start to the season. We just need to kind of do better, really, don't we? Terry says there, great vlog again, Richard. Needed that. Great to see the usual rabble in the chat. Indeed, come on, you guys see tonight. Yeah, it's been nice. Just have a little chat about the game. You know, I'll be doing this on the game when I can't do the watch-alongs for one reason or another. I'll just do a show afterwards just to chat about the game. And if people don't want to come and join me, it's been difficult getting people, especially at home games. A lot of the lads go to the games more. So, you know, they'll be in on Tuesday anyway. Regenda says, see you then, guys. Yeah, and yourself, mate. Steve says, good night, Terry, Rich, Regenda. Until next time, take care. And yourself, mate. We'll speak to you very soon. Of course, Wednesday night, a big one for you, or Wednesday daytime for you. And Terry says, yeah, take care, Steve. Yeah, well, obviously, the semi-final. If you're around tonight, 7:30, join us for that show. We're going to look back on the Lionesses' victory today, and also say the semi-final coming up against Australia. It's like a football Ashes, isn't it? Which is good. Regina says England 1-2-1. Indeed, they did. We're going to talk about that later. Terry says, don't forget to hit that thumbs up button before you. Yeah, indeed. Give us a like before you go, and subscribe if you are new. We're back, I say, at 7:30 tonight for that. So thanks for joining me today. I'll say a slightly different show. Just looking back on the game, we did finish Arsenal 2, Nottingham Forest 1. 2 first half goals. Eddie Nketiah and Bukayo Saka. 2 English players scoring as well. 2 England players scoring for England, for Arsenal. Sorry, which doesn't happen too often, does it? So that's nice. And Steve's going 3-1 for England. Well, I don't know. I hope you're right. I really do hope you're right. But I'll take any victory, really. But we'll talk about that later. So yeah. Arsenal got the victory. Nottingham Forest pulled one back late on with a 1-0. But Arsenal held on, and it was a bit of a hold on at the end, wasn't it? Which it shouldn't have been, but it was. But we got the 3 points. We're happy enough with that. Performances need to improve. I'm sure they will. And Arsenal, sort your bloody ticketing out, please. Sort that out. It's a joke today. Embarrassing. for one of the biggest clubs in the world to make such a mess of it today. Wasn't great, was it, for the first game of the season? But anyway, it's done now. Improve it for next time, and that's fine. And improve the performance on the pitch as well, quite honestly. So a lot to improve on, but a good start to the season. 3 points. We're going to be joint top tonight, which is nice. We're not quite top of the league. Man City have got a few more goals, but we'll see what happens in the rest of the games over the weekend. But we've got our 3 points on the board. It's all good. So yeah, we just, a few things to look at, a few things to work on and improve. But that's what it's about, isn't it? You're not going to be perfect every time. You're certainly not going to be perfect right at the start. It doesn't matter if you are. Win the games now and then be in a good position for April and sort of March and April time when it really matters. That's what it's about. So yeah, decent start enough. 3 points for Arsenal. Let's go. So come on, you Gunners. I'll see you tonight at 7:30. Join me for that. Thanks for watching. Of course, Terry's gone 4-1 England. Russo 4, and Stina and her team. Yeah, wouldn't it be great? Wouldn't it be great if it was an England-Sweden final? That'd be good, wouldn't it? But let's get there first ourselves. Anyway, yeah, we'll talk about that tonight. But thanks for watching today, guys. I've enjoyed your company as always, and I will see you later on. And of course, in the meantime, I'll say, come on, you guys. 3 points. Joint top of the table. What more do you want? Come on. Let's not be greedy. Let's not be greedy. 3 points is 3 points. See you tonight, guys. Take it easy.
Gives it to Saka on the far side. Bukayo Saka running at Luke Shaw, cuts inside. Saka tries to shot for 25 yards. It's in the far corner. What a great goal that is! Bukayo Saka. The comeback is complete. Arsenal 2, Manchester United 1.